What is going on, y'all? We got a lot to talk about today. Germany likely done selling Bitcoin. We have MakerDAO and a BlackRock announcement, which is huge for DeFi. And we're going to talk a lot about altcoins, so stay tuned. All right, y'all, let's just jump straight into this per usual. So we are looking at the Germany Bitcoin graph that shows a huge decline. They sold about 42,000 Bitcoin in 1 week, which is pretty crazy. So that's about 250 Bitcoin per hour. And I think this is a very important thing to point out here, because you don't really have a lot of events like this for Bitcoin, or just assets in general, where you have this huge seller, nation state, that it doesn't really care what the price is. They're just, they're in automatic profit because they got the Bitcoin for free. So no surprise that they dumped very aggressively. You probably would never see this with a hedge fund or a prop firm or someone holding, this much Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So this is really why the market has been heavy over the last week or so. And I think that the worst of the downtrend we've experienced is behind us. Okay. And I want to point out here something about the technicals. And let me clean some stuff up here. I thought I had this ready. Bear with me here. Get rid of some of this option data. A lot of people are getting shaken out right here because they're looking at this chart and they're seeing all this chop right here, and it's not necessarily giving them the signals, like this perfect signal to long. And I think a lot of that has to do with people not being experienced with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, from my experience, never really gives like a very clear message that, hey, I'm bottomed out. You really have to go by sentiment and just how erect people really are. That typically is a good indicator of the bottom, as in liquidations. And obviously the TA matters, but let me just show you a couple of examples on why, if you go exclusively by TA and not the macro or bigger picture stuff, you could get trapped in really the wrong opinion or wrong mindset. This is last summer, and this was the absolute bottom here before we had a massive rally. Okay, and I want you to look at this price action. This price action did not look bullish. When this happened, I remember all of this, and people were bearish this entire time. So forget about this right here. So from here, from October over, pretend that doesn't exist. And just imagine how bearish people were right here at the bottom before it blasted off. Why? Because the structure didn't look good. People are looking for this, they want to see this very constructive, pattern or whatever. And they didn't get it. There wasn't a lot of volume here. And then you had the Cointelegraph intern that really turned things on. So as you can see, this was not a pretty bottom, and it went sideways for a few months, but it trapped a lot of people who thought there was another leg down. And I was one of these people who was expecting there to be another leg down, to be fair, or to be honest. It was terrible price action. The order flow was horrible. There was big spot sellers this whole time. And that was the bottom. So what I'm saying is, if you try to use TA purely, you can really miss the bigger picture, which is that you're in a bull cycle. And you could have bought anywhere in this range right here from 27 to 25, and that would have been a really good idea. Let me show you another one, okay? This is probably even more infamous now. Very similar situation, big liquidation event. This actually was the biggest liquidation event, or the liquidation event we just had was the biggest one since this FTX collapse, by the way. But you had this big sell-off and then this crappy price action. There was nothing bullish about this price action, but there were people accumulating, waiting, to really, turn it up, start, TWAPing into positions and destroy all the shorts all at once. No one expected this to happen. There wasn't any bullish signals to really indicate this until after it took off. If you tried to use exclusive TA, you would have missed this, is what I'm trying to say. So you have to look forward, and that's what people did who bought here. Is they said, look, I think in 2023, you know, the macro should be better and things should look better, blah, 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 blah. And that was true. And we've really been up only since then with these minor pullbacks, right? Fast forward, and that's where we are today. I mean, you had this big move down, really starting from here. It took an amazing amount of things to get you there. Mt. Gox, Germany, you know, these are not normal things. These are exogenous events that typically do not happen. And then you had a big liquidation event here on July 4th. Okay. And one thing I want to point out here is this RSI, because I think that if you went by just one indicator, this would be a good one for knowing when you're buying blood, when you're buying probably a bottom. So just look at this RSI on the daily here. It hasn't gone under 30 many times. If you look last summer, the absolute bottom, it got really under 30 here. As you can see, almost to just under 20. That was the bottom. So that was the last time it got under 30. The time before that was the Silicon Valley banking crisis. Okay, right here. The bottom, it touched the 200-day moving average and then bounced off of it. And then time before that was the FTX collapse, one of the worst events in crypto history. Okay, and that was the bottom. Well, you're getting a lot of confluence here that this is a good area to buy. You're below the 200-day moving average, so some people will see that as bearish. And as you can see, it did take some time to get above this 200-day moving average last time we lost it. So don't be surprised if you get a big fight there. There's probably going to be a lot of people who will sell off that level for various reasons. But overall, I really do see this as a bullish picture. And mainly, outside of the technicals, which I actually think do look pretty good if you zoom out, I'm not getting too focused on, again, the microstructure here. What's really bullish, in my opinion, is that people are bearish even though the macro is actually really bullish. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the macro here, because I think that's really what's important. All right, so we had the CPI print that came out on Thursday, and it was lower than expected. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. Okay, because the Fed has two mandates, really three, we'll talk about that later, and those two mandates that they claim they have is unemployment and price stability, meaning they want inflation to be around 2%, and they want employment to be at a certain level that's, you know, that they want. So those are the two factors. They don't want to keep rates up. Okay, this is something that I think really needs to be stated. The Fed actually does not want to keep rates up. They don't really want to break things, right? Because that's their main mandate, is to not break the financial system, in my opinion. The longer they hold up rates, the more likely they would break something, and they know this. So if inflation is coming down and unemployment is trending up, which I think there's ample evidence to suggest that the unemployment rate has been trending higher, slowly, but it is trending higher, the Fed has no reason not to cut rates now, as inflation is definitely coming down, and unemployment is trending up, albeit slowly, but it is trending up. So this likely means we get a cut in September, which the market is now pricing in, I think around 90% or 85%, something like that. And this is really, really important for crypto. Okay, this is very important for crypto. And the reason why this is important for crypto is there is a global liquidity cycle that we've talked about many times on this channel. And this is why, or this is the principal reason why assets go up and down. From my research, from my understanding, it is the most important factor, is where are the flow of funds? Are they coming in? Is there flow of funds available to come in? Is there a high likelihood that liquidity could flow in? Assets will likely go up, and vice versa. Okay, and stocks have been doing great. They've been going, hitting all-time highs. The indexes feels like every other day, and that's because the global liquidity has been trending higher, but it has been trending higher slowly, not very quickly. And I think what we're learning is that certain components of that global liquidity are more, or Bitcoin is more sensitive to certain components of that global liquidity. If you actually look at the nuances, central bank liquidity being the prime or the most important factor out of the variables for Bitcoin. Okay, so why am I mentioning that? Because with the CPI coming down, unemployment trending higher, going into September, we're likely to get a cut. That is only going to help Bitcoin. I've heard some people say, oh, that's going to be bearish for risk assets. Not in this situation. It's going to be bullish for Bitcoin, small caps, basically further out on the risk curve. People think that we've had this crazy bull market and markets are getting like super frothy. That's actually not true. If you look at the overall worldwide investor risk index, I wish I would have brought that up. We're at like normal levels. We haven't got to frothiness at all. Why? Because the big tech stocks are really what have been pushing up the indexes, and I'll show you what I mean. But most of the stock market actually hasn't been going up. Okay, the small caps. But you can see as of yesterday, we're getting a huge move. This is the Russell 2000. So these are small cap stocks. IWM is also another way you can look at this. But we'll use the Russell 2000 index here. And you can see if I put this on the weekly, that this has been going sideways for 2 years. So a lot of stocks have gone nowhere since 2022, which is crazy considering what the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ looks like. Why is that? Well, even though things have been moderately bullish, people have not actually gone that far out on the risk curve is what I'm trying to say. They've been putting money in Nvidia, they've been putting money in Microsoft, Apple, etc. But now that it's likely the Fed are going to start cutting rates, you're likely to start to see rotations into things that haven't been catching a bid. And Bitcoin and crypto in general is in that category. It's further out on the risk curve, and that's fine. Bigger gains means it's usually a more risky assets. That's just part of it. So there's a lot to look forward to in terms of macro going into the next few months and going into really the rest of the year and into next year. Okay, and we could talk a lot about Trump and how that and Biden, the election affects Bitcoin. But I think right now the market has certainly has room is going to start to price this macro that we're talking about now. There's no way, in my opinion, that it's not going to do that. Now, does that mean that we go to all-time high immediately or anything? No, that's not what I'm saying. But the idea that we're just going to sit and chop around here, while it's pretty clear that you're going to have more liquidity coming into markets like Bitcoin, you have an ETF for people to buy Bitcoin that you did not have before. It's bullish, all right? I don't think I need to ramble on that very much. What else do we want to talk about on and the dollar? Let's talk about the dollar here. This has been sort of like one of the final bosses for Bitcoin and crypto in general, and just risk assets in general. Risk assets do not like the dollar to go up. Tech stocks haven't really minded that much. Some of the bigger stocks, for reasons we mentioned, they've been acting as like a flight to safety. But now that this is rolling over, and it really does, I'm keeping my fingers crossed here because I've said this before, this is really starting to look like this could be topped for a while. This is very bullish for Bitcoin. We'd like to see this ideally go a lot lower, and I think we will see that in the coming weeks. Okay. One last thing while we're here, the MOVE index. This is definitely important for risk assets. It hasn't necessarily helped Bitcoin all that much. Definitely has helped stocks. As this goes down, the collateral multiplier is increased, meaning for bonds, meaning you can take out more leverage versus your bond collateral. And that's great for people who for certain types of investors. Okay, so the lower this goes, the better. Volatility of those bonds decreasing allows for more leverage on the underlying collateral, which we're talking about bonds here. So very important there. Looking good. Looks like it's going to make a new low for the year potentially here soon. I want to talk about Maker here. This is very interesting. So MakerDAO, if you don't know what that is, it's like the king of real world assets. They have the DAI stablecoin, and we can talk more about this in the Discord. You guys should join in there if you have any questions. Very interesting project. I've been bullish on Maker now for years. It looks like BlackRock has some sort of interest in this, and that is not surprising to me at all. I think the only thing that should be surprising is that it took this long. This is right up their alley. I think I think this will be a back end for them for so many different reasons, but this is a very serious project that really has their crap together, excuse my language, and I just expect naturally for big market participants like BlackRock and others to start taking advantage of it, because there are significant advantages to a decentralized application like this for financial applications. Okay, so huge deal here. And if we look at Maker, the TVL has been going basically sideways since 2022, but that's fine. I think you're going to start to see that go probably an order of magnitude higher as BlackRock and others start to play around with this thing. But look how much total locked value there is right now. It's about $7 billion, over about $7.5 billion. And if you actually look at the fully diluted valuation, it's at about 2.4, we'll just say $2.5 billion. Some people will say it's valued correctly or whatever. I would say this is significantly undervalued if you think that this has any growth at all as Wall Street starts to adopt the technology, which I think they will. They earned, it looks like over the last year, there was about $240 million in fees, about $100 million in revenue. This is a real project. They have real revenue. It's a serious project, and a lot of people don't know these exist. But this is really, in my opinion, this is the blockbuster / the product market fit. The first real use case of crypto is DeFi. This is really the meat of what we're doing here in this industry. I know people have forgotten about it, but DeFi is really where it's at. Stable coins are a gateway drug, and then naturally that leads to Maker, Aave, Uniswap, and some of these other huge protocols that I think are going to be very much utilized by Wall Street participants like BlackRock. So this is just the beginning. We've expected this. We've talked about this before. And I think you're going to see many, many more big players jump into this space soon. So let's just finish this off with some altcoins here. So, well, let's look at Bitcoin. So right now we're closing this Friday here, roughly at about 58K. No surprise there. This is the 200-day simple moving average that we've gotten rejected off a few times. But if you look at the 200-day exponential moving average, that seems to be kind of a little bit more of a resistance line. As you can see, you've had a close pretty much underneath it each time we've tried. However, we are bouncing and creating higher lows here, so I think we're going to break it. It looks like this could potentially be setting up for a weekend breakout. I'm just bullish. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's hard for me to be bearish given the fundamentals. We've had this large pullback. People have been washed out, and we're in a bull market, so I'm leaning that it's going to break to the upside. If it doesn't, or let's just talk about if it does break to the upside, I think that takes you pretty quickly, obviously, to the 60K level, which is like the value area low, so to speak, somewhere around there. That's kind of like the range low, many people would say. If you look at the volume profile, you can see that's where it starts to get pretty thick. So I would expect you would probably see a little bit of a fight there. Let's say we get some acceptance in here. For on like a daily close or something. I think you come up to this 64 level pretty quickly, or somewhere in this area, 63, 62. You got the 100-day moving average and also the 50-day moving average there, and maybe you would range around there. But if you can get acceptance above this level, you're probably going up to 67 pretty quickly. So if we get into the 60K range, I think you take out these levels fairly quickly. It may take some time, but I do think that will happen over the next few weeks. If we look at ETH, you got this nice double bottom. Sorry, we got a lot of a lot of stuff here. I'm going to leave some of these indicators up. We are actually over the exponential 200-day moving average and also the simple 200-day moving average here. Very bullish there for ETH. Hopefully we can close like that. I think we're gonna make our way back up to around this 3,300 level. That's kind of where the quote-unquote crime, the scene of the crime before the big washout occurred. So, you know, you'll probably retest somewhere in here. Yeah, bullish. You got an ETF that's fixing to be rolling here in the next, should be in the next few days, next week or so. So I don't know why people would want to sell ETH when you're going to have likely some larger players in the TradFi world getting some exposure to this. If we look at Solana, let me remove some of this here. It looks to me like it's a bit more choppy, obviously. It didn't make a new low. That's pretty nice. You can see that it held this, it's been holding this like 120 area roughly. Look, if it's above this level, bullish, you know, roughly 130, bullish. It might take a while, but I do expect this to trend higher with Bitcoin and ETH as those begin to move to the upside. Not really sure, you know, what this does in the meantime though. Some of the altcoins like the DeFi stuff, because of that Maker BlackRock announcement, I think it's starting to catch a bid. You can see Lido's up like 7% today. If we go to the ETH betas, you can see that they're generally all up. Aave up around 5%, Synthetics up, Maker obviously up. DeFi looking decent across the board, especially Aave and Maker. These are the two that I really want to keep my eye on right now. Aave and Maker both look pretty clean, especially Maker. So, yeah, bullish on DeFi. You guys know that. But as you can see, some of the meme coins not doing as well. Popcat, I still think it looks pretty good longer term, but in the short term, this might want to take another test down here to this 0.4 level or something. It might chop around for a while. And the reason why I say that is if you look at some of the other memes, they ain't looking so good. Bonk looks like it might head back to the lows. It's local lows here. And you can see further evidence with Pepe not looking so strong. I mean, it's not looking like extremely weak, but clearly it's not, you know, it's not catching a bid right now. And this has happened in the past where whenever Bitcoin and ETH start to expand, we've seen that memes sometimes just kind of take a break. They just start to go sideways and they end up rallying later. Maybe that's the case. And as you can see, WIF here is really, I don't want to say this is terrible. I don't want to bear post when something's at the lows, but clearly it's not catching a bid right now. So be careful with memes. They'll probably do well later, but I think in the meantime, some of the more quality stuff will be catching attention. All right, guys. Join us in the Discord, and until next time, happy hunting, friends.
Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel if you'd like more updates like this, and let us know in the comments, what do you think about today's video and DeFiancy update and insight? Also, make sure that you join our Discord, our free community chat where we discuss things like this, what's going on in real time. Typically, our Discord community is the first to know what's happening, and we would love to see you there. Check the link in the description. And until then, we'll see you in the next DeFiancy Insight video. Bye for now.